apologize to Bradley for removing my mask. Good morning, and thank you so much for having me. Thank you very much, Justice Cameron, for wonderful words. Honorable judges and justices, I'm Melusi Smelane from Eswatini, a gay man. My colleagues asked me that I emphasize when I say a gay man. So there we go. I'm a gay man from Eswatini, and when tasked to address your honorable lordships and ladies, I couldn't imagine adequately representing the most vulnerable of our societies. Justice Cameron has defined them as the women and the LGBTQ persons amongst us. So I will speak for myself in the hopes that my truth inspires us to consider the impact and lived experiences of persons like myself in the 30 or about countries in Africa that still criminalize consensual same-sex intimacy. Justice Cameron has expressly shared how these laws have humiliated, subordinated, and peripheralized the marginalized and powerless at the expense of those with privilege and power. The criminalization of same-sex intimacy violates the privacy and further disregards human dignity. It is degrading incomprehensibly as it reduces our lived experiences to a sexual act rather than a whole human experience. We ought to be considered as citizens and people who contribute to society in numerous meaningful ways, and we try. Oh Lord, we try every day to contribute. I feel this condemnation daily, and let me explain why. In 2019, colleagues of mine in Eswatini founded an organization we sought to be registered as an organization to promote, to protect, and advance the rights of persons like myself. I can shamelessly admit that this in part involves challenging some of these criminalizing laws, and Justice Kharekwe from Botswana will know what I'm talking about. The Registrar of Companies, though, concluded that this organization did not meet the requirements for registration because, according to him, we would encourage sexual acts between men, which is criminalized in Eswatini. Well, the registrar also said that the right to equality in the Constitution of Eswatini does not apply to LGBTQ persons because sexual orientation and sex are not mentioned explicitly in our Constitution. I'm happy, though, that with that challenge, we have had a judgment that just came out, which actually affirms that human rights are inherent to all citizens of Eswatini, but that's a conversation for another day. I find that hard to reconcile with the democratic principles enshrined in the African Charter and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And in any case, in the High Court of Botswana, in the Attorney General versus Ramoge, the judgment read that there is nothing unlawful about advocating for change in laws. That is a democratic right of every citizen. Honorable judges and justices, I need not remind you that resources invested in protecting human rights seem prone to exhaustion without addressing the source of violence and what is defined as violence. Justice Cameron has defined, at least for me, this violence as the subordination and the marginalization and as the subordination of the marginalized and powerless, only to entrench the position of the privileged and powerful. Now, the repeal of laws that criminalize consensual same-sex intimacy between adults and the introduction of anti-discrimination solid legislation that protects all citizens and enables them to give their best to society for the good of all citizens could just be the answer we seek. The onus may not only lie in the respectable judicial bodies that you represent. However, activists and human rights defenders like myself, with the sincere dedication and the support of my colleagues at the Southern African Litigation Center, rely on you to see this through, as the courts are the last line of defense against human rights violations. And your judgments may just hold a strong sway to public perception of the rule of law. So may these 2 days be an opportunity to reflect and be reminded of the important task that lies ahead of you. Thank you very much.